Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I call the 5 categories of dreams. And this is a way that I have learned through the years of my constantly writing them, because I have several journals that I have written the dreams that I have had for several years. And this is a way that I've recently have learned how to identify them, how to put them in categories. This is not something that I have seen in books that are explained in this way, but this is a way that it has been helpful to me, and I hope it is helpful to you. I'm going to explain to you very briefly what each category is. Of course, it is a very, very small and explanation. Each one is a very in-depth content of the topic. Each one of them requires a lot to know and explain, but I'm going to make it as brief as I can. I'm trying to explain this and kind of like explain you why as well. I think it is relevant and it is important to know what kind of dream you're having or you're experiencing. These are all based on Carl Jung. He is the psychiatrist from Switzerland, and I think Jung is the scientist, I will call him. I'm not the only one though, but he's the one that helped humanity to remember the importance of dreams. Something that we have recently forgotten, I feel. Dreams are being essential to so many cultures. Dreams are important even for the spiritual communication, as we see it written in the Bible, as a way of communicating with Jehovah. It was a way and a channel which it was reliable and it was important for everyone. It was well recognized that dreams have a very important part in our human psyche, I will say. So the first one is dreams related with the ego. So what dreams related to the ego means, this is just your you may dream things that are very of course there's always a drama, but are very common. You even recognize some of the symbolic representations that the subconscious uses, whether it's a person, a people in your real life, an external life from work, or it is the scenery of work, or is you were at home when you were growing up, or you were at the lake that you used to visit when you were a child. Just things like that your subconscious will use as a symbolic representation of things that you're dealing with your external life, with challenges they are presented to you, things that are of course challenged to the for you in ways that you need to address them. That is always the message. Is also information that subconscious is processing from all of the information that it has gathered through the day, or also situations and circumstances that are challenging in your life, and they have like a continuous dynamic, that is evolving and it is happening. And it is also that information that the subconscious is processing and is symbolically being represented as well. But most likely, most of the time, is also information that it needs to come to your attention, things that you need to process more particularly, could pay more attention to. I think that's the point and the aid and the help that we get through our dreams, is when we dream them this way. A lot of the times we wake up from these dreams that are just information that is being processed, don't really remember them. It's like, oh, I know I had a dream, but I can't remember what it is, or I cannot remember details. I only remember this fragment, and it's kind of like a picture of this, and it really is not a complete story. so many other dreams are. And that's okay. I still write down those dreams. I think they always have valuable information. There is no one dream that it is actually you can consider junk, because they're not junk. They're all pertaining to you and to the things that you need to address within yourself. And they're also pointing out a particular things that are relevant and you need to pay attention to. I have one person, friend, that she mentioned a tip, which I thought it was really good idea, is that just to have, I do have my phone next to my bed, and when you wake up, before you do anything, you can just dictate. You can just relate your dream to the recording, or you can notebook. I think it is in the app in your cell phone. You can also talk, and it will transcribe it for you, which is a very useful tool, I think. Because sometimes we're just you know getting ready to go to work. We can't be late, and writing your dreams, it does require time. um, Also, one aspect that I will have to say, I keep reminding, is that a lot of times when I'm writing the dream, then more details will come, or more better understanding as well. Like, it will expand in my understanding. I thought it was this thing, and then it just expanded into something more, right? Or I'm starting to relate it already with aspects and circumstances that are happening in my life, and what kind of the dream is symbolically presenting at the same time. So, just kind of also relating to you, the importance of paying attention to your dreams and actually acknowledging them. I think that's a very, very important step, and it cannot be overemphasized how uh, needed it is. The second aspect to that I want to talk about is that dreams of the shadow, for example. And there's lots of this. I'm talking about the shadow in a dream, particularly. Um, but the shadow in itself, when Jung calls the shadow, I mean, that's a very extensive topic. There is a lot of books written about the shadow. I think it's the most common topic that psychoanalysts and psychiatrists have written about the shadow. And I mean, with due reason, I think it's the one that presents the most challenges to people, um, because of the importance and how intrinsic it is in our lives, right? How potent it is, how troublesome it can become, not only externally, but also inwardly as well. It causes the most problems, and physically even will make you ill if you don't address those complexes. Um, the shadow in general is aspects that you do not of yourself, that you're not recognizing, that you don't want to admit, that you don't want to integrate. In a very superficial way, it will be aspects that we see in other people that very much irritate us, that we don't agree with, and it brings all of these emotions, these overly emphasized and negative emotions about something that the other person is doing, so something that we consider bad and unacceptable and evil. Now, this has not to do with justice. Justice is one thing, and by integrating those shadows and recognizing that those aspects that we reject and we hate so much are also part of ourselves, that we need to recognize them. It doesn't mean that you're going to be okay with a person who is a murderer and takes the life of another person. Of course, it's something terrible that shouldn't be accepted, and it is rightly wrong, and we're right to deny something like that as being bad. But at the same time, it is not about the justice itself or what is right and what is wrong. It's about the emotions, the negative and overemphasize of negative emotions that we feel about someone else. Those negative and overemphasized emotions is what it brings people to commit also wrongdoings, is what brings people to become overly uh, is the reason why people take bad steps and become just as equally bad or worse than what they are condemning. And that is the difference, and that is the shadow. It doesn't mean that because I accept, something wrong that can also live in me, that can also be part of me. It doesn't mean that I'm going to act like it or be okay with it or justify it. For the contrary, it just simply means that my reaction to it, it is going to be composed and in accordance to what the wrong it is, to seek justice in the way that is meant to be, that society has structures for, and but that discontent and that rejection and that anger and that overemphasized negative emotion will not dominate me and also incite me to become and do something wrong at the same time. So that is the difference, and that is the shadow versus something that's already integrated. And it doesn't bother me to that degree. It bothers me to the moral aspect when something is wrong, but it doesn't bother me to build up those emotions inside of me and that rejection and that overemphasize of the negativity, that it can also be a trigger to commit something wrong, which either externally or internally, which is what the shadow effect has in people. Now, I just wanted to clarify that what it kind of means about a shadow is a very general term, it's a very flat way of presenting it, but that's the fastest way I could show it. But this is something that we deal collectively. This is something not new. This is something that brings societies to commit genocide, like the one in Gaza, for example, that is happening right now. It is with those shadow dynamics that societies entirely are brought to create. And the same thing comes with the compliance. Just simply looking the other way, it is also part of it. But that's a different subject. Now, with the shadow dreams, what it will represent, for example, it will be something like chasing you, something after you, something evil, something wants to get you, and you feel the terror of it. So, whether it is an animal, whether it is an adversary, uh, or whatever it is, just a dark entity that is chasing you, that is something that is related with the shadow. And Jung always talk about, and not only Jung, but he's the origin. He always speaks about confronting that shadow, turning around in your dream and confronting it and asking it, what do you represent? What do you want from me? What do you need from me? And once you do that, that pursue of that dream, it actually ceases to have its power and have had this chaotic energy, because what it needs is to be recognized, and it needs to be acknowledged that it's there and that it is part of you. So it kind of begins the process of accepting and integration, as Jung calls it. So these dreams often manifest themselves in this way, in a way that they will chase you, and they will hunt you. What they need is your attention and your recognition for them. So that is a second one. The third one will be, and again, this is another vast topic, is what Jung called the archetype. So these archetype dreams, they come or present themselves in very symbolic ways. The way that I have understood it the best is through mythology. And, when you dream about the goddess or a priest or a priestesses, or or a shaman. Some people have and not have that dream particularly, or you dream with a priest, someone who is of a spiritual authority, for example, something that has to do with the wisdom, wisdom, a higher knowledge, and you recognize and identify it as such in your dream. That is an archetype. Dragons, for example, are also part of an archetype. Dragons who have a meaning or protective of you, or um, uh, overall it will be this energy, or no, this energy, sorry. So this character symbolically represented as having this protective wisdom and higher knowledge than you do. Um, those are kind of the, generally speaking, the representations of how the archetypes are present themselves into your dreams. You recognize them in a way that they have a lot more weight to it, weight or power, I should say, not weight. They will have more power, so they will make an impression on you, knowing that this dream was something special. This is not something ordinary. It has a meaning. um, and speaking about the mythology, I really haven't had a lot of dreams related to the culture that I grew up with. And in Mexico, I have had dreams with personalities that, or characters that were, I couldn't tell you if they were Tazcatecans or Mixtecas or Zapotecas, or all the a lot of them tribes that were in the region of Mexico, that they ended up calling them the Mexicas, just for the generalization, because there are so many of them, right? But I couldn't tell you which one of them was, but I know there was one of them that that I have had dreams with. But I have also had dreams with characters that not pertaining to my culture or the culture that I grew up in. There are characters that are more related to the Greek mythology, which isn't itself interesting, and this is why I love Jung, because Jung explains this from the collective consciousness that he came up with, in our terms, in our language. Sorry about that. In our terms, in our language, the collective consciousness, it involves all of that information, all of those archetypes. They're not individually belong to certain tribe or groups. They belong to all of us and all of the humans. So the entities who have, or the sentients who have consciousness, these archetypes belong to them. And we do dream them, things that archetypes that are not pertaining to our culture, we never heard about. We don't call them by name of whatever particular, Greek culture, for example, called them, but the dynamics are there, and the elements are there. And I have had certain dreams in which, late years later, reading mythology, reading that, it has, amplified my understanding of it, and put more in depth of what the dream means, and which is very interesting. Um, the other the other type of dream that Jung speaks about is the self, and this is more of a spiritual dream that you will have, which is one of my favorites, and I have had it represented mostly in my particular experience is with um, sacred lakes, a sacred lake or sacred mountain. Is always, for the most part, has involved water. For my in my case, it is always involved water. However, Jung speaks about, or it focuses more, because I think that's the most experiences he got, him, and through his patients as well. And he uses a lot, or speaks about the mandalas, like Tibetan mandalas type, from India. type of mandalas. And I have to say that I have only have one dream as such, kind of. In my case, the symbolic language that my subconscious uses is always has to do with sacred waters. And you will know when this dream is about the self, because it is that. You understand it's not something that is pointing at you or is telling you or relating to you in any way that is something sacred. You just know you're in the presence because you will feel it, that you are in the presence of something, a place that is sacred, that it has some spiritual really relevance. You will know when there's a holy element within the dream. And like I said, that's not something that you are being needed to be told. You will know what you are dealing with. And these are very spiritual, important dreams that we all have, I believe. And they are related in another aspect that I don't see it in Jung so much as a category, in the way he was explaining or talking about dreams. But I have also had several dreams of initiation, in which they have to do with, in my particular case, they have to do with rivers. Um, and rivers and initiation part of it, so crossing the river. And I have had several of them. And these, to me, I have learned through the years, because it's been more than one that I have had. And the meaning of it is, I have found the profoundness of this is almost a ritual. It's a symbolical ritual that is happening within my psyche. And recently I have learned as well the importance of it, because it is not something that is new or particular to one culture or another or one region. It's universal. It belongs to the human psyche as in general, as a collective. All of the cultures have rituals, and the importance of rituals and initiations are crucial. And that's something that we have forgotten, actually. That is very significant and very important, more so than we realize or we understand, or actually we forgot. The rituals of initiation as well are even within the Bible, as Jehovah or Yahweh established with his chosen people from the beginning, in order to have this relationship and this dynamic with God, with Jehovah. Rituals, very particular rituals, initiations as well, they had to be performed in order for Jehovah to continue having this dynamic. Without them, it was impossible to maintain or to interact with God. So the rituals are essential in your development, and in that also initiation of your spiritual, emotional, and mental maturity and development. You need to have those initiations and those rituals and that symbolism. It is very important, as important as that, like I said, God established them for his chosen people. And it's nothing to do with, the typical paganism and all of that. And there are other things, and there are entities that require that, and I'm not denying that, but that's not my interest, and that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the importance of the rituals and what they bring to the psyche, what they bring to you in a spiritual way, in a psychic way. Psyche means of your, more of a spiritual way of maturity, and the steps that you need to take for that maturity. This, speaking of specifically about the Bible, God required those rituals for cleansing sanctification in order to have that relationship. In the same way, I believe that we are doing a resemblance of that in our psyche. We are sacrificing in a way, and we're cleansing ourselves from our own immaturity to become more of adults, to become more humans, like in order to have a direct conversation and direct relationship with God. When you sacrifice your selfishness, when you sacrifice your positionalities, your opinions because they better suit you, because they benefit you, because you feel like them, when you sacrifice those things for the sake um, for a higher authority, for a sublime authority, which is God, and you lead way by that, and you live your life by those principles, you're sacrificing yourself in a way. You're making those sacrifices that are not to your benefit and that are only a hindrance for you to develop and become an adult and become a human being, or what Jung calls a, a complete self, the one that integrates everything in a mature way, of course. So these dreams are also there. I don't see that as a, the Jung speaks so much about them. I haven't read a lot of his books. I have read some of them, of course, but there is a lot of material out there. But I thought I should put it integrated with this group of, or the types of dreams, these categories that I personally have and I think are important, and those are the ones that I have seen in my lifetime and myself that I have dreamt of. Those are kind of the categories. The last one is the numinous. Now, the numinous is something that Jung speaks about in a particular way, in which his experience, for example, I will explain it through his experience, and this happened in his life when he was in his last years of his life. And he ventured himself to the depths of his subconscious, which is something that it's very brave to do. I often worry about people that experiment with drugs, for example, and venture into their subconscious without being prepared, without knowing what they're doing, without understanding the dynamics, and most importantly, without having the maturity, the foundations, the emotional, mental, and spiritual strength and maturity to open those doors. And they do. And a lot of it are not good experiences. Some of them do, some of them work for them, but I think it's a gambling aspect of it. I don't think it should be taken as lightly as a lot of people do take them. And Jung explains very well in his books, and not only him, but we have a plethora of examples of how things can get wrong when you venture in something that you don't understand and you don't have the basis for it to experience it. It can get really bad and it can get deadly for some people, and it has been, and we have several examples of them. One of them was Nietzsche, which Jung speaks about extensively. He has several volumes about Nietzsche's experience and what he perceives of it and what Nietzsche was doing, but that's another topic. The numinous, Jung experienced it through a character that he called Philemon. Spanish pronunciation, sorry. But he describes him as this elderly entity who had wings, I believe. He made paintings of it. And the information that he interacted with Philemon, it was, I think I would have to say it was one of the culmination of in Jung's vision and his experience with the subconscious, because I think that's when he he went all in. He took all the risk. It was he struggled through it. It was very challenging, very scary about it, because dealing with the subconscious is dealing with the dragon. If you get too close to it, you will get burned, and you will be burned if you do not how to handle it. If you don't know how to just tap enough and keep your distance and treat it with deep respect, it will burn you. And that's exactly what Jung did. Like, he did a huge risk, and he wrote the most informative books that are helping us to, still helping us right now. They were benefiting from it, about the subconscious, about the human psyche. So Philemon, the interactions that he had with him are very interesting. They're part of the Red Book of Jung, and the pictures that he painted about it. And they're on internet. You can Google them if you wish to see them. But I will have to say, from the personal experience with this type of dreams, it brings something different. And I will have to admit that this you're dealing with character and an entity that is not part of you, and you know that. Like, I don't need anyone telling me that is part of me or not. Like, I know what I know, because I'm the one living it and seeing it. But I have to say this, that I have had these dreams in which they're not like these interactions with these numinous people or these numinous entities, or they have autonomy, and they have a way in which you will have a conversation, and the information that is given, that is not part of you, is not related to you, doesn't pertain to you. So I will have to say, I'll put this in a completely different category, something that I don't know if I cannot say for or speak for everyone how many people or how often or how common it is to have this type of dreams. But I thought it was important to put it there, just in case, not just in case. It is important to put it there for people who have had this type of dreams, and have felt similarities of what I kind of am speaking about. The way they're represented, that's another topic. I do not want to, because I don't. It's such of a hard thing to speak about with authority, because I don't know a lot of things. So, there is a lot of things that I do not have the answer for, that I'm still seeking to have a better understanding, even not even an answer, but just a bit of understanding. Although I have to say that in relation to what I have dreamed, what physically present, how they present these numinous, they are related to kind of mythology, not even mythology, just like entities. They are part of the memory of the collective, entities that other people have experience with them, and they're known by very popular certain names. And yes, so I thought of putting them part of the category, because they are part of the category. What I do is that I have a book in which I have dreams that are about the self, about dreams that you will see as something sacred, which is a temple, could be an altar, could be a round table, an oak tree, or something that is sacred, or a place. Like, I do have many dreams myself about, which is mountains and lakes, or the sacred ocean. So something that is sacred and is holy and is just special, spiritual in its own way. So those dreams with the archetype dreams that I have, and the numinous. So I have a book where I write those type of dreams in those categories, and I have another book where I write down to the dreams that I have, more of the ego part of things, that information that I need to process, challenges, and so on. So I have that book with the shadows, because I kind of categorize them as, these are work that needs to be done. These are challenges. It's personal things that I'm struggling with. And that's kind of like the category there. And I have to say, like that having a complete answer for your dreams is not something that you can pick up a book and find all your answers, because like I said before, these are very particular to each person. It is a language, it's your language, and it's your responsibility that you need to learn it for yourself to understand yourself better. It is on your own particular language. These are just generalizations that will help you. There's sort of tools that can aid you in that path, but really is more of an introspection and understanding yourself, understanding your own language that will help you and will aid you with information that is valuable and pertaining to you. I hope this inspires you. I hope this helps you to keep better track of your dreams. And thank you for listening.